Jaya Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Pavrachacharya Astotasa Sri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Jai Jaya Om Vishnu Paramahamsa Pavrachacharya Astotasa Sri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Rihamidanga Ki Jai Samalita Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai all glories, oh this I go to Pramanande Hari Hari Bol, all glories to the assembly devotees Hare Krishna, all glories to the assembly devotees Hare Krishna, all glories to the assembly devotees Hare Krishna, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityananda Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaura Bhakti Krishna Vishesha Srimad Radha Prasad.
Krishna, welcome to the morning program. We're going to chant Madhava and read the introduction to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only by which we can attain good devotional service. And to those lotus feet with great honor and reverence. By His grace, one controls the ocean of material suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna.
My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from His lotus mouth. Attachment to His lotus feet is the perfection of all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord without to birth. From Him accepted prayer emanates. By Him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of His character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of all, the Lord and master of the devotees. Our master of the merciful to us. Give us the shade of the lotus feet. Your fame will be spread all over the three worlds. Jai. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Yamuna Tira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari
Srimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jaya Om Vishnu Paramahamsa Parvaracharya Astosata Shri Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shikha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Sham Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Gandamai Ki Jai. Munamai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Brihad Midanga Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Pramanandi. Hare Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Should I read the full intro chant? It's listed there. Janmadi Asyaniko
Read 3 times Om Namo Bhagavate.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
O my Lord, Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead.
Janmadhyasya Anyatarascha Ateshu Abhigyan Swarat.
Okay, I see. Janmadi asya yato anyan ikarascha atesu avinya sarat.
Tene Brahma Hridiya Adhikavaye Moyanti Yat Surya.
Tene Brahma Hideya Adhikavaye Moyanti Yat Suryaya.
Tejo Vari Nirdanyata Dinomayo Yatra Trishango Nirsha.
Tejo vari mredam yatha dinemayo yatra trisago misha.
Kamnas Vina Sada Nishta Kukum Satyam Param Deimai.
Hamasvena sada nirasta kuhukam satam param dhimahi.
Would you like to repeat?
Yeah, sure. Janmadi asya yato
You can start.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate.
Janmadhyasya.
Janmadi asya yato anaya ikarastas cha atesu avijna swarat.
Janmadhyasya taha anyat itarastascha atreshu avijjan swarat.
Tene Brahma Hideya Adhikavaye Moyanti Yat Suraya.
Tene Brahma Hridiya Adhikavaye Muyanti Yat Asurya.
Tejo Vari Mredam Yatha Vinamayo Yatra Trisago Mesha.
Tejo Vari Mridam Yata Vimayo Yata Trishango Nirsha.
Hamasvena Sada Nirasta Kuhukam Satyam Param Dhimahi.
Damas Vena Sada Nirashta Kukum Satya Param Deimai.
Om.
Om.
O my Lord.
O my Lord.
Namo.
Namo.
Offering my obeisances.
Offering my obeisances.
Bhagavate.
Bhagavate.
Unto the personality of Godhead Vasudevaya.
Unto the personality of Godhead Vasudevaya.
Unto Vasudevaya.
Unto Vasudevaya.
Unto Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, or Lord Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord.
Unto Vasudeva, the son of Vasudeva, or Lord Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord.
Janmadi,
Janmadi,
creation, sustenance and destruction.
Creation, substance, and destruction.
Asya,
Asya,
of this manifested universes.
of this manifested universes.
Yato,
Yato,
from whom?
from whom?
Anayad,
Anayad,
directly.
directly.
Itaratas,
indirectly.
Cha,
and
Ateshu, purposes. Avigna, fully cognizant. Swarat, fully independent. Tene, imparted. Rama, the Vedic knowledge. Vida, by the hearty consciousness. Ya, one who. Adig Kavaye, unto the original created being. Yat, about whom. Suraya, great sages and demigods. Tejo, fire. Vari, water. Mridam, earth. Visaga, three modes of creative faculties. Amrisha, almost factual. Hamana, along with all transcendental paraphernalia. Swena, self-sufficiently. Sada, always. Nirasta, negation by absence. Kuhukam, illusion. Satyam, truth. Param, absolute. Yemahi, do I meditate upon. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I do offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I do meditate upon him because he is the absolute truth and is the primeval cause of all causes of this manifested universes in the matter of creation, sustenance, and destruction. Directly and indirectly, he is conscious of all different manifestations, but still he is independent of any other cause. Beyond himself, it is he only who imparted first the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of the original living being, namely Brahmaji, and unto whom even the great sages and demigods become illusion, as much as there is illusory representation of water in the fire or land, or water, or of water in the fire, or land on the water, and so on. It is on account of him only the temporary manifestation of material universes made by the reaction of the three modes of nature appears to be factual, although it is unreal. I do therefore meditate upon him, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representation of the material world, and he is therefore the absolute truth. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Ki, Jai. Obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Vasudeva directly indicates Lord Sri Krishna, who is the divine son of Vasudeva and Devaki. The fact will be more explicitly explained later in the text of the Srimad Bhagavatam by the direct statement of the author in his assertion that Sri Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, and all others are either his direct or indirect plenary portions or portion of the portion. Srila Jiva Goswami has still more explicitly explained the subject matter in his Krishna Sandarbha, and Brahmaji, the original living being, has explained the subject of Sri Krishna substantially in his treatise called by the name Brahma Samhita. In the Samveda Upanishad it is said also that Lord Sri Krishna is the divine son of Devaki. Therefore, in this prayer of the author, the first proposition is that Lord Sri Krishna is the primeval Lord, and if any transcendental nomenclature has to be understood of the absolute personality of Godhead.
You mind? Maybe it's a good idea if you take the microphone, if you read, and just put it here. It should be long enough.
Am I more quiet?
Well, it's better.
Great.
Yeah, you don't have to crawl, just you can stand up.
I got my legs up in my boots anyway.
Yeah, just make sure it's people complain about the sound. From here?
Is it in Tango still? Oh, it is.
See if it reaches. Should reach.
If not, just in person.
Therefore, in this prayer of the author, the first proposition is that Lord Sri Krishna is the primary Lord. If any transcendental nomenclature has to be understood of the absolute personality of Godhead, it must be the name as indicated by the word Krishna, the all-attractive. In the Bhagavad Gita, many places the Lord has affirmed himself as the original personality of Godhead, and it is confirmed by Arjuna with authorized statements of great sages like Narad, Vyas, and many others. In the Padma Puranam, also Pravakashanda, it is said that out of the innumerable names of the Lord, the name of Krishna is the principal name. Therefore, although Vasudeva indicates the plenary portion of the absolute of the personality of Godhead, and all the different forms of the Lord being identical with Vasudeva, indicated in this text, is principally meant to indicate the divine son of Vasudeva and Devaki, Sri Krishna, who is always meditated upon by the Paramahamsas, or the most perfect of the renounced order of life. This Vasudeva, or Lord Sri Krishna, is the cause of all causes. Everything that be are all emanations from the Lord, and how it so happens will be explained in the later chapters of Srimad Bhagavatam. This Bhagavad Puranam is described by the Mahaprabhu, Sri Chaitanya, as the spotless Puranam because it contains the transcendental narration of the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. The history of Srimad Bhagavat is also very glorious. It was compiled by Sri Vyasdev on his mature experience of transcendental knowledge under the instruction of Sri Naradaji, the spiritual master of Vyasdev. Vyasdev compiled all the Vedic literatures, namely the 4 divisions of the Vedas, the Vedanta Sutras, all the Brahma Sutras, the Puranas, and the Mahabharata, etc. But yet he was not delighted in his mind. This was observed by his spiritual master, and thus Narad advised him to write on the transcendental activities of the Lord Sri Krishna. The transcendental activities of Lord Sri Krishna is described specifically in the 10th canto of the book, which is considered to be the substance of this attempt. But in order to reach the substance, one has to approach gradually by developed knowledge of the categories. Generally, a philosophical mind is inquisitive to know what is the origin of all creations. He sees at night on the sky and naturally thinks, what are the stars and how are they situated and who lives there and so on. All these inquiries are quite natural for a human being because he has developed consciousness. He has the developed consciousness than the animals, and to answer at once to such sincere inquirer, the author of the Srimad Bhagavatam says that the Lord is the origin of all creations. He is not only the creator, but also is the maintainer of the cosmic situation, and he is also the destroyer of them. The manifested cosmic nature is generated at a certain period on the will of the Lord. It is maintained for some time, and then it is annihilated by his will, and as such he is the supreme will behind all these activities. There are atheists of various categories who do not believe in the conception of a creator, but that is due to poor fund of knowledge only. The modern scientist has created a Sputnik, and by some arrangement or other, the Sputnik is thrown in the outer space to fly on for some time at the control of a scientist who is far away from the flying Sputniks. Similarly, all the universes, with innumerable planets within them, are similar to the Sputniks controlled by the best brain of the personality of Godhead. In the Vedic literatures, it is said that the absolute truth, personality of Godhead, is the chief amongst the living personalities. All living beings, beginning from the first created being, Brahmaji, down to the smallest ant, all of them are individual living beings. And above Brahmaji, there are many other living beings with individual capacities, and the personality of Godhead is also a similar living being as individual as the other living beings. But the Supreme Lord, or the Supreme Living Being, has the highest brain with the supermost and inconceivable energies of different varieties. If a man's brain could produce a Sputnik, we can very easily imagine that brains higher than the man can produce similar other wonderful things far superior than the man-made Sputniks. A reasonable person will easily accept this argument, but there are stubborn obstinates who may not believe in this reasonable statements. But Srila Vyasdev at once accepts the Supreme Brain as Paramshvara. He proposes to offer his respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Brain, addressed as the Para, or the Paramswara, or the personality, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the Paramswara is Sri Krishna, is admitted in the Bhagavad Gita and all other scriptures delivered by Srila Vyasadeva, and specifically in the Srimad Bhagavat. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that there is no other Paratattva, Saman Bonam, than him. Therefore, the author at once worships the Paratattva Sri Krishna, whose transcendental activities are described in the 10th canto. Unscrupulous persons go at once the 10th canto and specifically to the 5 chapters where description of the Lord's rasa dance is kindly given. This portion of the Srimad Bhagavatam is the most confidential part of the great literature. Unless one has thoroughly accomplished himself in the transcendental knowledge of the Lord, is sure to misunderstand the Lord's worshipable transcendental pastimes in the form of rasa dance and his love affairs with the gopis. The subject matter is highly spiritual technology, and only the liberated persons who have gradually attained to the stage of Paramahamsa are referred to hereinbefore can transcendentally relish worshipable rasa dance. Srila Vyasadeva therefore gives us the chance of gradual development of spiritual realization before one can actually relish the essences of the pastimes of the Lord. He therefore purposely invokes the Gayatri mantra, Dhimahi. This Gayatri mantra is specifically meant for the spiritually advanced people. When one has attained success in the matter of chanting the Gayatri mantra, he can enter into the transcendental position of the Lord. One must therefore acquire the Brahmanical qualities or be perfectly situated in the quality of goodness of the modes of material nature in order to chant the Gayatri mantra successfully and then attain to the stage of transcendental realizing the Lord, his name, his fame, his qualities, etc. Srimad Bhagavatam is the narration of the Swarup of the Lord manifested by his internal potency, and this potency is distinguished from the external potency which has manifested the cosmic world, which is practically within our experience. Srila Vyasadeva makes a clear distinction between the two in this shloka. He says herewith that the manifestive situation of internal potency is factually reality, whereas the external manifestive energy in the form of material existence is temporary and illusory, only like the mirage in the desert. In the mirage of the desert there is no actual water. By interaction of some other thing there is appearance of the water. Real water is somewhere else. Similarly, the manifestive cosmic creation is appearing like some reality, but the real reality, of which this is an imitation shadow only, is somewhere else in the spiritual world, which is conspicuous by the absence of all affairs of the mirage. Absolute truth is there and not here. Here, everything is relative truth, or one seemingly truth depending on something else. This cosmic creation is an interactory resultant of the 3 modes of nature, and the temporary manifestations are so created to present an illusion of reality to the bewildered mind of the conditioned soul, appearing as so many species of life, including the higher demigods like Brahma, Indra, Chandra, etc. In fact, there is no reality in the manifestive world, but it appears so on account of the real reality in the spiritual world, where the personality of Godhead eternally exists with his transcendental paraphernalia. I
was born in darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master is divine grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada kindly opened my darkened eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. Over my humble obeisances to his lotus feet. So this is a very deep and analytical and detailed purport, and this is actually, this purport Prabhupada explains many times. It's a reference to many other shlokas, to Vedanta Sutra. Janmadya Syataha, everything comes from God. The Gayatri mantra is mentioned in the end. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So many others indicates that this Srimad Bhagavatam is not just something that was written by some Gupta, like I think we read in the introduction, or there's this theory that Srimad Bhagavatam is a recent work by some Gupta 1,000 years ago, which came as a reaction to Christianity. Very, very rascal proposition. There are many references in many Puranas that indicate that there's this book that is written in 18,000 verses, spread throughout 18,000 verses, and starts from this invocation, specific invocation of the Gayatri Mantra and Janmadhyasya, which is the work of not other but the author of the Vedic literatures, Vyasadeva, who gave his own commentary to his own work, to the Vedanta Sutra. What was the necessity for the Vedanta Sutra to be summarized? I don't know if you remember in the introduction, Prabhupada was explaining that the people, they could not understand the message. In Shankaracharya, he gave his commentary on Vedanta Sutra misleading people. That's why Lord Chaitanya, he had to fight with so many Mayavadis and re-explain to them the essence of Vedanta Sutra. But his smash to that was very simple, because the author himself gave a commentary on his own work. If I want to understand what you mean by some statement, I can speculate, I can ask someone who knows you, but if you already explain how you want to be understood, why there is a need for another explanation. There is no need. That's why actually Shankaracharya, he never touched the Srimad Bhagavatam. Nowadays, the Mayavadis too, they start to touch Srimad Bhagavatam. But they cannot, it's almost impossible to usurp it towards impersonalism or Mayavad, because the personal aspect there in every single page, it's very, very personal. Because it deals with two prime things. The Bhagavad Gita deals with Krishna directly, his instruction to Arjuna, and the Srimad Bhagavatam, you heard about the difference between the two? It's in this first booklet that you got, actually.
In the personality, the reservoir of pleasure.
Yeah, Prabhupada speaks about it there. It's okay if you don't remember.
Yeah, I don't want to mess up the specific difference.
No, it's okay. So, Bhagavad Gita speaks, Krishna speaks there, God speaks directly.
And it's Vyasadeva commenting on
Sorry?
Krishna. Well, it's Vyasadeva commenting on the personality of Godhead in Srimad Bhagavatam, and Lord Sri Krishna talking about himself directly.
Yeah, almost, you got it, yeah.
Okay.
Srimad Bhagavatam is spoken about God, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his devotees. From like a third perspective. But Bhagavad Gita is directly Krishna is speaking. So, because Krishna is directly because it's spoken about Krishna and his activities in every single page, the Mayavadis, it's impossible, to get something impersonal from them. They really have to juggle it out, so to speak. So, yes, that's why they didn't touch Shankaracharya, he didn't touch, the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the prime essence of that revealed in the very first shloka, that everything originates from God, and how it originates from God, it's all going to be revealed step by step up to the 10th canto, and from the 10th canto it's after the 10th canto there is the Uddhava Gita, then the predictions for the age of Kali, but the essence really is up to the 10th canto, where the 10th canto is called the Saman Bonam. The purpose of all the Vedic studies and austerities is to understand Krishna, and that's what is revealed. And to get there, we study, first of all, what is the nature of the Absolute Truth, where is it originating from, and so on. So, and like we read in the introduction, if someone reads up to the 9th canto, it's enough to, if he reads and understands thoroughly, it's enough to achieve liberation if you read all the 9th cantos. So on the 10th canto, you, at least theoretically, you are self-realized, because you read, you prepared yourself, you studied all these pastimes from so many points of views and angles. Prabhupada, if you would see how Prabhupada would work actually on these books, he would sit with 5 different books.
Wow.
You would go through Vishwanati Chakravarti, Valadev Vidyabhusan, his spiritual master, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, many spiritual masters, and he put the essence so we can really grasp it and come to this highest realization of Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And it all starts here.
Wow.
So it's a very long purport. We're going to break it into 2, 3, 4, as many parts as possible. The last few paragraphs, Prabhupada was speaking about how the real reality, how our reality is a shadow reflection of the real reality. It appears manifestive. In fact, there is no reality in the manifested world, but it appears so on account of the real reality. Shadow cannot exist without light, and the object which stands between. So this is this aphorism starts this inquisitiveness that I'm looking for pleasure, I cannot get any pleasure, or knowledge, or relationships. Right? The Mayavadis, what the difference between us and the Mayavadis? The Mayavadis, they deny. But why the manifested world is appearing, they don't explain. They just say it's Maya, everything is Maya. But that doesn't answer the question, where is it coming from? So the personalists, they go very, very deep and they understand, it must originate from, if everything is truth, God created everything, God is all, is reality. So how come something unreal came from something real? Actually it is real, but it's a reflection. So how is it a reflection? It's all explained here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and all these pastimes, if you remember them, if you meditate on them throughout the day, everything you see is going to reflect spiritually. Starting from, this very philosophical and heavy, like the first volume of the Bhagavatam, first canto, is very, very heavy with philosophy and, all kind of nuances, psychology, everything is there. Prabhupada actually says there's no need of education, like institution, to learn history, this stuff, philosophy, psychology. In the Bhagavatam you have history, you have psychology, you have philosophy, you have religion, and everything is there. If you just study thoroughly these 10 cantos the Prabhupada gave us, you're going to know everything you need to know. Just English and some arithmetics you need to study. But this, anyone can take care of it. Anything you'd like to say or comment?
So, is it when Prabhupada says like a self-realized soul, he sees Krishna everywhere? You made an interesting comment that you see everything reflected spiritually if you study very nicely. So is that kind of the sum, and is that like kind of what it means to be self-realized a bit more, like a bit of an elaboration on that? You according to all Vedic literature, you can
remember the pastimes. It's not he sees everything as God and that's it. It finishes there. No, he serves in these. He sees Krishna as the kartals, So in his consciousness, he plays the kartals. He immediately he remembers service.
Okay.
So all these pastimes that are mentioned, they explain this relationship with Krishna and his devotees. So we can relate to a particular type of service they render and meditate on these services throughout the day.
I was trying to understand Prabhupada's vocabulary usage when he says the subject matter is highly spiritual technology, when he's referring to the rasa dance. I couldn't quite understand what he meant by technology there. I guess it's like,
And the 10th canto especially especially to the 5 chapters where the description of the Lord Vasudens. Is given. This portion of the Srimad Bhagavatam is the most confidential part of the great literature, unless one thoroughly accomplished himself in the transcendental knowledge of the Lord. No, is this one?
Yeah.
The Lord one is sure to misunderstand the Lord's worshipable transcendental pastimes in the form of rasa dance and his love affairs with the gopis. The subject matter is highly spiritual technology, and only the liberated persons who have gradually attained to the stage of Paramahamsa, as referred to herein before, can transcendently relish worshipable rasa dance. Well, it reminds me of this one. I mean, it's a memory. It's not documented anywhere, but it's a memory that makes sense, by this statement. That there was this devotee who was trying to, they were distributing books to universities and libraries, right? So one group of librarians, they were interested in this book that came out about the same time Prabhupada was translating the Bhagavatam, called The Ancient Vedic Technology. It was explaining about the vimanas and flying saucers and all kind of things like that. And the devotee wanted to ask that from Prabhupada, and he was just when he opened his mouth and he asked Prabhupada, what do you think about Vedic tech? Just when he said the Vedic tech, Prabhupada slammed the fist on the table and he said, our Vedic technology is Guru Parampara. What's the use of knowledge if you don't have the understanding? So the understanding is conveyed by a person, just like we understand a person by a person, and there is a relationship. Material knowledge, I just take it from Google or whatever, and two, unfortunately, not unfortunately, but that's how it works. Even that knowledge you cannot assimilate if you have no access to the person too. But especially the spiritual knowledge, because it deals with this very intricate subject matter, how to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You have to approach, the spiritual master of the spiritual master of the spiritual master, like that. And this is the real technology of the ear, how to hear. Actually, everything is based on that. The inventions, technology, it starts from an idea. Someone is in necessity for something. He speaks that idea out, and then the scientists, they speak more and more and more, theorize, hypothesize, experiment. They speak all the time. It's all hearing, actually. Wow. It starts from, just like God, Krishna creates from, the creation starts from ether, right? In the beginning there was the Word, and the Word was God. So our way out of this material world too starts and ends from hearing. And this is the technology. That's what transfers the mind, the consciousness. Like if I talk to you about England, immediately your mind is in England. Or Israel, immediately Israel. So this is the real technology of hearing. We're trying to purify our hearing, so we can hear with such rapt attention these pastimes that eating, sleeping, all these things will not matter. Like I was reading today about Raghunath Das Goswami, that he would chant for 22 hours a day, and for 2 hours he would sleep and eat somehow, and his eating will be very meager. He will use the unwanted grains that will be thrown to the cows, and even the cows, from the bad odor of the grains from the rice, because rice after 3 days in the heat of India especially, the smell is so bad. Even the cows will not eat it. So he would take the inside of that rice that they would throw them, he would wash it very thoroughly, mix with salt, and he would eat it just to upkeep the body somehow. Sleep a little bit and then continue chanting for another 22 hours. How, and Prabhupada explains there, how he is able to do it, because his hearing, very, very purified hearing. When you hear to such an extent, you develop such a taste that, these material necessities are not important. You don't feel the scorching heat and the pinching cold.
do we increase that taste for hearing? Just more hearing.
Yeah. Like now, why we cannot hear? Because we have this jaundice. So the only cure from jaundice is sugar candy. Although sugar candy is very bitter, by taking the sugar candy, you develop the taste, the sweetness taste comes back. So we have to somehow other make ourselves here and others here, and that will cure jaundice. Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Tagora Premanande. Hari Hari Bo.